In today's video, I'm going to be checking out some of the plays that the Portland Trail Blazers may be using this year in the NBA. These basketball plays look absolutely fantastic, but also pretty simple to a point where they could be ran at the high school level. So let's get down, let's check these out, and I hope that they help your team win more games. Okay, so in this first play, we're going to have our center starting up top, and of course our guard who had the ball using that screen. At this point in time, we're going to be having this low post player. He's going to be setting that screen up for that point guard, but also the wing player on this side is going to be setting a pin down screen for the player along the corner. Meanwhile, the player along this wing is going to be going down towards the corner on this side. However, we see a fantastic move that happens over in this corner that gets the Blazers an open layup. Now this is what I'm absolutely talking about when I tell players to move off ball. Being able to find openings, you don't necessarily have to run your team offense to a T. So basically what we see here is a quick jab towards that left side, making that defender think that he's going to be using that screen coming off for an open three-point shot or for a screen and roll to happen. However, if you see as a player that there's a wide open spot on the court, you need to be able to take that. You need to be able to fake your defender out by doing quick jabs, and if you've got a good guard or a good passer up top, you can really take advantage of that defense. So basically what we're going to be doing in this play is essentially having player 5 set that screen for player 1, and then we're going to then have a dribble handoff between players 1 and 2. Player 4 is going to be going into that low post for a second while player 1 clears out. At this time, we're going to then have player 4 pop up for that screen and roll to happen, but also a pin down screen on this side for player 3. Now basically we're going to have multiple different options in this set. Number 1 is going to be having player 3 hitting that three-point shot. Obviously, like we've seen, he could cut back door, and that could be open as well. But our main option is going to be player 3 popping off for a three-point shot. If this is not open, player 2 is going to be using player 4 as a screen, and player 4 is going to be rolling towards that basket. When this happens, it all comes down to what the defense is doing. So, for example, if this was covered and there's no open shot here, and then we use this screen, what could happen is that hedge man will come out, player 1 may be trying to fight around, and player 4 may be wide open. If this is the case, then hit him up for a layup. But usually what happens is player 4 red, the defender, will play help defense on that cutter, because teams would rather have a 3 these days than a layup. The proper way to defend this would be to have player 3 sink in instead, but not all teams are able to do this, especially when there's screens happening on the opposite side. That defender is going to be preoccupied with what's happening over here, which then leaves usually player 4 in this case wide open, or player 1 wide open for that three-point shot. As I am mentioning this, there are so many different options, it may be difficult, but to teach this to your team, it shouldn't be all that hard. You're basically using a 5-out offense, having player 5 screen for the point guard, and then having player 1, almost like a weave offense in a way, up top for that dribble handoff. At this point in time, player 2 is going to then clear. Player 4 is going slowly into the low post at this point to try and jam his defender. We're going to have a quick pin down screen for player 3. If he comes off for a 3, we can hit it. If he's not open, his man fights around, then there will be a screen up top. Player 2 goes down into the corner, and of course now it's just a screen and roll. That's essentially what the play is. Really quickly, if you want the complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense, make sure to go check out the link down in the description below. Now this is a play that's actually used quite a bit at the NBA level. Basically it's a staggered screen up top for a high cut. In this case it's Damian Lillard. He's going to come off of that double screen and he's going to be jacking up a three-point shot. If you have a very good three-point shooter on your team and you need to get a basket really quick, or if you want to do like a quick hitter at the beginning of the game, you could run this offense, this play, once, twice, or even 4 or 5 times in a single game, and you could probably get off 3 or 4 threes. The only thing is, after these screens, I would definitely be having these players crash the board, as this is high school, or this is NBA, but if your team's a high school team, you may only have a 30 or 40% three-point shooter. If you can get 3 players to crash the boards, you're going to be doing really well on the offensive side, because then you can just kick it out and reset up a simple motion or regular offense. So basically, you're going to be having your best screeners in the high post, your best shooter on this side, and then you're going to have also another player in the corner on that side. We're going to be setting up this staggered screen, and player 2 is going to be then popping across that high post. Player 2 is going to pass him that ball, and he's going to be taking that shot. However, after these screens, I want these players to be crashing the boards, because player 2 is going to be taking that shot, and I always want to have multiple rebounders. So this is actually very similar to my S-play. It's actually ran a bit higher, and I'll explain my S-play as well. But this is actually a very, very interesting play. We're essentially having a staggered screen and then another screen on the opposite side, which gives that inbounder multiple options to be able to pass that ball in. Here we do have a contested shot. However, it's still a very good play. So essentially you have your best shooter here and your second best option shooter here. What you're going to be having set now is that first player up top is going to be setting the initial screen. You're going to have that other player here setting a secondary staggered screen. Player 9 in this case is going to be popping off, hoping for a 3 in that corner. Meanwhile, we're going to have that initial first screener. He's going to be popping off the screener on this side, and we could have a 3, or we may have a layup, or even if he pops out a little bit farther, a 3 on this side. So in this play, we're essentially going to be having player 1 set up that screen, player 4 set up the stagger, player 2 popping off, and then at that point, after the screen is set, we're going to be having player 5 then set that same screen, and player 1 has the option to go in for the layup or the 3, depending on if player 2 is open or not. Now this is very similar to my S-play, and I play the S-play in the low and high post, but essentially the S-play is, let's say player 1's name is Tyler, and he has the best three-point shot on our team. I would then have player 3 call out ST, as in shoot Tyler, and basically Tyler would then cut through between players 4 and 5. They will then set that sandwich screen, and player 3 will then be inbounding to player 1 for that three-point shot. The backup option would be player 2. He would then be posting up, hopefully, a mismatch where if this was a failure and the defense got through, player 2 should have inside position on his man to get a quick inbound and layup. We ran this also in the high post as well. Same idea, ST. Let's say, for example, player 1 would then go through, and then player 2 instead would be cutting towards the low post on this side, again giving player 3 multiple options, and we would then have player 5 setting a screen for player 4 as our backup leak-out option if neither of these first 2 options were open. I hope that these plays help your team win more games. I really enjoyed watching these plays, and I really enjoyed breaking them down to help you out. Of course, make sure to go check out my complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense down in the description below. And if you're looking for a killer defense, make sure to go check out my unbeatable basketball zone defense down there as well. I'll see you guys again in my next video.